My friends, listen to me carefully. In this world, power is not just about muscles, weapons, or technology. Real power comes from alliances, strong partnerships that multiply strength and secure the future. And today, one of the most important alliances is between the United States and India. Why? Because India is not just another country on the map. It is a rising giant. It has the world's largest democracy, a massive young population, and an economy that is growing faster than most others. It has innovation, energy, and ambition. If you look into the future, you will see India standing tall as one of the global leaders. The US knows this. It knows that in a world full of shifting powers, you don't want to lose a friend like India. Because when you have India on your side, you have access to one of the strongest markets, one of the brightest technology hubs, and one of the most powerful militaries in the making. Losing that alliance would mean losing influence in Asia, losing access to billions of opportunities, and losing a partner that can help balance the power of other giants like China. Let me tell you, alliances are like trust in a friendship. Once you lose them, it is very hard to get them back. That is why the US will fight to protect its bond with India. Because it is not just about trade, it is about values, democracy, security, and the vision of a stable world order. India is a country that believes in progress, in education, in innovation. Look at its engineers, its doctors, its scientists. They are shaping the future of technology, medicine, and business across the globe. Any nation that walks away from India is walking away from the future. And the US knows it cannot afford that mistake. But remember this, an alliance is never one-sided. It takes respect, it takes understanding. The US must treat India not as a junior partner, but as an equal. Only then will the bond remain unbreakable. Because if the US tries to dominate, if it tries to control, then India will simply rise on its own terms. And it has the strength to do it. So why does the US not want to lose India's alliance? Because this is about survival in the new century. This is about building a network of strength that keeps peace, promotes growth, and balances power. Without India, the US will be weaker. With India, it will be stronger than ever. India is no longer just a country seen through the lens of its tradition, spirituality, or colorful diversity. It has emerged as a rising global power that every major nation must recognize. When we say India is rising, we are not merely talking about statistics or reports. We are talking about a transformation that is visible in every sphere of life. It is the world's largest democracy, a country where more than 1 billion voices participate in shaping leadership and governance. That scale of democracy itself is a power because it sends a clear message that freedom, representation, and resilience are possible even in the most complex societies. For the United States, recognizing India as a rising power is not an option but a necessity because the future of global leadership will not be written by one or two nations alone. It will be determined by how strong alliances are with those who are already stepping into roles of influence. India's economy is one of the fastest growing in the world, consistently showing resilience even in times of global uncertainty. While other economies slow down, India pushes forward, driven by entrepreneurship, technology, and a hunger for progress. This growth is not accidental. It is the result of ambition and determination rooted in a young and dynamic population. More than 65% of India's people are under the age of 35, which means the country is powered by youth, innovation, and an energy that never settles for less. This demographic advantage is unmatched anywhere else in the world, and it gives India the potential not just to grow, but to dominate the global economy in decades to come. The US sees this, and it understands that to lose India's alliance would mean losing connection to one of the most powerful engines of future growth. Beyond numbers, India's rise is also seen in its expanding global influence. In forums like the G20, the United Nations, and regional platforms, India's voice carries more weight than ever before. It no longer speaks as a developing nation struggling to find its place. It speaks as a confident player that others must listen to. Whether it is climate change, trade negotiations, or global security, India commands attention. For the United States, having such a partner means having a friend whose influence strengthens their own ability to shape international rules and decisions. The world respects India's stance, and when the US stands alongside India, the partnership carries legitimacy and power that cannot be ignored. India's advancements in science and technology are another reason why it is seen as a rising global power. Its achievements in space exploration, with successful missions to the Moon and Mars, demonstrate not only technical skill, but also ambition on a global scale. Its IT sector has transformed global business, providing talent, innovation, and solutions to companies across the world. Its pharmaceutical industry has proven its strength, supplying medicines and vaccines to millions during crises. These are not signs of a follower nation, these are signs of a leader in the making. The US knows that such achievements cannot be overlooked, and they understand that partnering with India means gaining access to brilliance, innovation, and problem solving on a scale unmatched by most countries. India's military strength is also growing steadily, with one of the largest standing armies in the world, advanced missile systems, and increasing investments in defense technology. India is not just defending its borders, but positioning itself as a regional security provider. The Indo-Pacific region, which is now the center of global trade and power competition, cannot remain stable without India's presence. For the US, which seeks to maintain its influence in this region, India is not just a friend, it is a necessity. Losing that alliance would mean losing a pillar of security in one of the most contested regions on Earth. This is why India's rising power is directly tied to America's strategy for global stability. Culturally, India also holds a soft power that is impossible to ignore. Its traditions, cinema, yoga, and philosophy have traveled across the globe, shaping lifestyles, ideas, and even diplomacy. Soft power is often underestimated, but it is one of the most effective tools in building global influence. India combines this cultural depth with modern innovation, creating a unique identity that resonates everywhere. The US understands that alliances are not built only on military or economic might, but also on the ability to inspire and connect with people worldwide. And in this aspect, India is unmatched. Furthermore, India's commitment to democracy and its resilience in maintaining democratic values amid diversity make it a model for the world. Managing over 1 billion people with different languages, religions, and cultures under one democratic system is not a small feat. It shows political maturity and a vision that values inclusion and freedom. This makes India a natural partner for the US, which prides itself on its own democratic values. Together, they represent not just power, but a moral alliance that others can rally behind. This is why the rise of India is not only an economic or military phenomenon, it is also a rise in credibility and global respect. What makes India's rise even more significant is that it is not dependent on others. Unlike some nations that rely heavily on external aid or support, India has built much of its growth through internal strength, reforms, and determination. It has overcome colonial history, poverty, and challenges of scale to stand tall as a future leader. That story of resilience and transformation is exactly what inspires the world. It shows that India is not a fragile partner, but a strong, independent one, capable of standing shoulder to shoulder with the most powerful nations. For the US, that kind of partnership is priceless because it is based on strength, not dependence. All of these factors combine to show why India is a rising global power. Its democracy, its economy, its technology, its youth, its culture, and its military all point in the same direction forward. And as it rises, it reshapes the balance of power in the world. For the United States, losing an alliance with India would mean losing the chance to be part of this historic rise, to share in its opportunities, and to secure its own leadership in the century ahead. This is why India is not just another partner, it is a power that cannot be overlooked, a power whose friendship defines the future. When we look at the shifting balance of global power, one reality becomes absolutely clear: the rise of China is reshaping the dynamics of Asia and the entire world. China's rapid economic growth, military expansion, and assertive foreign policy have created a power that rivals the United States in nearly every sphere. In this scenario, no country can afford to face this challenge alone, and this is where India becomes essential. India is not just a neighbor to China, it is a strategic counterweight, a nation with the size, the influence, and the will to stand its ground. For the United States, Losing India's alliance would mean losing one of the strongest natural partners to balance the dominance of China in Asia and beyond. China's Belt and Road Initiative, its military bases abroad, and its increasing influence in global institutions show a clear ambition to rewrite the rules of international order. The US cannot ignore this reality. Yet, while it remains powerful, the US is thousands of miles away from the Indo-Pacific region, while India is right there at the heart of it. India's geographical location, stretching from the Indian Ocean to its Himalayan borders, gives it a vantage point no other democracy has. Controlling sea lanes, ensuring trade security, and balancing China's territorial ambitions all require India's presence and partnership. Without India, the US would be attempting to play a game of power from too far away, leaving China more room to dominate. India has proven time and again that it is not afraid to stand firm against China's assertiveness. Whether on the borders in the Himalayas or in diplomatic battles at global platforms, India has consistently defended its sovereignty and independence. This resistance to pressure makes it a natural ally for the United States, which seeks partners willing to uphold freedom of navigation, rule of law, and open markets in Asia. It is not simply about having a partner who agrees on paper. It is about having one who has already shown the courage to confront the challenge directly. The US recognizes that courage and knows that losing India would mean losing an irreplaceable shield against unchecked expansion. Military balance is another dimension where India's importance cannot be overstated. China has built one of the largest militaries in the world, modernizing its Navy, Air Force, and missile systems at incredible speed. To counter this, the US needs allies who can share the burden of regional security. India, with its growing defense capabilities, large standing army, and rapidly advancing technology, provides exactly that. Joint exercises between India and the US, as well as defense agreements, are not symbolic, they are practical steps to ensure that if tensions rise, China does not dominate without resistance. This partnership is not built on convenience, it is built on necessity. If the US loses India's alliance, it will find itself standing alone in a region where China has the upper hand. Economic strategy also plays a major role in this balance. China's dominance in global manufacturing and supply chains has created dependencies that many nations are now questioning. India offers an alternative, a massive market and production hub that can reduce reliance on China. By investing in India, by strengthening trade and economic cooperation, the US creates not only new opportunities but also a buffer against China's monopoly. Losing India would mean leaving China with even more control over global economic flows, a risk the US cannot afford. This is why economic ties are not separate from strategy, they are part of the same picture of balance and security. Furthermore, India and the US share a vision of a free and open Indo-Pacific. This is not a slogan, it is a strategy. The sea routes through the Indian Ocean and South China Sea are lifelines for global trade. Whoever controls them controls the flow of goods, energy, and wealth across the world. China has made its intentions clear with artificial islands, naval expansion, and territorial claims. India, on the other hand, sits at a central position in this maritime theater, with the ability to monitor and influence critical sea lanes. For the US, an alliance with India ensures that no single power can dominate these waters. Without India, the US presence in the Indo-Pacific would be weakened, and China would gain more freedom to reshape maritime rules. Diplomatically, India brings credibility to the balance against China. Many nations in Asia and Africa may hesitate to align directly with the United States because of history or political concerns, but they see India as a fellow developing nation that has risen without abandoning its sovereignty. India's ability to build trust with countries that may not trust the West makes it an invaluable bridge. When India speaks about balancing China's influence, it carries a different weight because it is seen as a neighbor, not as an outsider. For the US, this credibility is gold, and losing it would leave its message weaker, less persuasive, and less effective. The cultural and ideological factor must also be considered. The rivalry with China is not only about military or economics, it is also about values. China represents a model of centralized power, state control, and authoritarian governance. India, on the other hand, represents democracy, diversity, and freedom. even in the midst of its challenges. This makes the India-US partnership not just strategic but also symbolic, a demonstration that democracies can stand strong in the face of authoritarian rise. To lose this alliance would mean losing part of the ideological balance that gives hope to nations struggling for freedom around the world. Finally, the personal relationships between people of India and the US strengthen this strategic balance. Millions of Indian Americans contribute to America's growth in technology, business, and education. These ties are not just numbers, they are living bridges that connect the two nations. This human connection deepens trust and cooperation, making the alliance even stronger. Losing it would not just weaken geopolitical strategy, it would weaken the bond between societies that have so much in common. All of this shows why India's role as a counterweight to China is absolutely central. The US cannot afford to face a rising China without a strong India by its side. This is not a matter of convenience, it is a matter of survival in the new global order. When India stands firm, it keeps the balance in Asia. When India partners with the US, it keeps the future secure. To lose this alliance would be to hand China more space, more influence, and more control, and that is a mistake no serious power can afford to make. India has become one of the most important technology and innovation hubs in the world, and this transformation is not accidental. It is the result of vision, investment, and the determination of millions of brilliant minds. When people think of India, they no longer only think of its rich history or its culture, they also think of Silicon Valley engineers, global CEOs, and groundbreaking scientific achievements. This shift matters because in the 21st century, power is not only measured by weapons or armies, but by who controls the future of technology, who shapes artificial intelligence, space exploration, digital infrastructure, and innovation that drives the global economy. For the United States, recognizing India's role in this field is not optional, it is essential because India is not just a participant in the tech race, it is one of the leaders, and losing its alliance would mean losing a partner that is critical to shaping the future. India's IT sector has grown into a powerhouse that influences businesses and governments worldwide. Cities like Bengaluru, Hyderabad, and Pune are now recognized as global technology hubs, attracting investments from the biggest corporations. From software development to cybersecurity, from data analytics to artificial intelligence, India produces solutions that drive industries everywhere. Multinational companies not only outsource their operations to India, they build research centers there because they recognize the innovation and talent that exists in this country. The US knows that by partnering with India, it gains access to a pool of experts and innovators who can help it stay ahead in the technological race. If this partnership were weakened, that advantage would shift elsewhere, giving rivals more opportunities to dominate. The rise of Indian talent is also reflected in leadership across global corporations. The CEOs of Google, Microsoft, IBM, and Adobe are of Indian origin, showing how the country's educational system and culture of resilience have produced individuals capable of leading some of the most powerful companies in the world. This is not coincidence, it is a reflection of India's ability to nurture leadership in innovation and technology. For the United States, this means that the alliance with India is not only about government-to-government cooperation, it is about people-to-people strength that connects industries, research, and entrepreneurship across borders. To lose this bond would be to weaken a channel of leadership that has already proven invaluable. In the field of space exploration, India has demonstrated remarkable capability. Its Mars orbiter mission succeeded on the very first attempt at a fraction of the cost of similar missions by other nations. Its Chandrayaan missions to the moon have captured global attention, placing India among the elite group of nations capable of such feats. These achievements matter because they show innovation driven by efficiency, creativity, and determination. The world is entering a new space race, one that is tied not only to exploration but also to defense and resource development. For the US, having India as a partner in this frontier means multiplying its own reach and influence. Losing that cooperation would mean giving up a critical ally in shaping the rules of space and the technologies that will define the future. Pharmaceuticals and biotechnology are another dimension of India's innovation story. During the global health crisis, India became a supplier of vaccines and medicines to countries around the world, showcasing both its capacity and its willingness to lead in humanitarian innovation. Its pharmaceutical industry is one of the largest in the world, and its research continues to push forward in biotechnology, genetics, and medical technology. For the US, which values innovation not only for profit but for security and global health, India is an irreplaceable partner. Losing that partnership would reduce the capacity to respond to future crises and weaken the ability to drive breakthroughs in global health. Artificial intelligence and digital infrastructure are rapidly becoming the backbone of future economies, and India is making strong progress in both. With government initiatives promoting digital transformation, millions of people in India have moved into the digital economy, creating a market and a workforce that are unmatched in size and potential. Startups across India are focusing on AI, fintech, renewable energy tech, and next-generation software. The US sees in this a chance to align with a partner that is not just consuming technology but creating it. Without India, the balance of technological leadership would tilt more heavily toward China, and that is a risk the US cannot take. Cybersecurity and digital defense are also critical areas where India's role matters. In a world where wars are no longer fought only with tanks and planes but with codes and networks, nations must rely on partners who understand the digital battlefield. India's expertise in software and security makes it a valuable ally for the US in protecting systems, infrastructures, and data. Losing this alliance would not only be a technological loss but a security risk, because it would weaken the shield against cyber threats that affect governments, businesses, and individuals alike. What makes India's role in technology unique is the scale of its youth population entering the fields of science, engineering, and research. Millions of graduates are produced every year, many of whom go on to work in top global firms or build startups that attract international recognition. This human resource is a living engine of innovation. The US understands that future breakthroughs in energy, climate solutions, robotics, and medicine will come from collaborations that involve these minds. To lose access to such talent would not only hurt the US economy but would slow its pace in the global race for innovation. Another factor is cost-effective innovation, something India has mastered. Unlike some nations that pour billions into projects, India has found ways to achieve excellence with limited resources, proving that creativity can overcome financial limitations. This ability is crucial in a world where efficiency determines competitiveness. By aligning with India, the US taps into a style of innovation that is practical, sustainable, and scalable. Without India, it loses a partner that brings unique solutions to global problems. The cultural dimension also plays a role. Innovation in India is driven not just by numbers or demand, but by a mindset that values education, problem-solving, and resilience. This is why Indian professionals excel abroad and why India continues to rise domestically. For the US, this cultural approach to technology complements its own innovation system, creating synergy that makes both stronger together. Losing that would not only weaken the alliance, but diminish the diversity of thought that drives true breakthroughs. All these factors demonstrate that India is not simply a country participating in global technology, it is a leader shaping it. From IT to space, from AI to biotechnology, from startups to global corporations, India's influence is everywhere. For the US, maintaining this alliance is critical because it ensures access to talent, innovation, and breakthroughs that will determine who leads in the century ahead. To lose this alliance would mean losing a vital link in the chain of progress and giving rivals more room to dominate the future. Defense and security cooperation between the United States and India is one of the strongest pillars of their relationship, and it is also one of the main reasons why the US cannot afford to lose India's alliance. In a world where security challenges are evolving beyond traditional warfare, nations are no longer just protecting borders, they are protecting cyberspace, trade routes, energy supplies, and global stability. India stands as a partner with the strength, the will, and the strategic location to make this cooperation indispensable. For the US, maintaining India as a close ally in defense and security is not only about partnership, it is about survival in a century that will be defined by competition. uncertainty, and the constant test of power, India's geographic position makes it one of the most important security partners in the Indo-Pacific region. The Indian Ocean carries some of the world's busiest trade routes, connecting the Middle East, Africa, and Southeast Asia with the rest of the world. Nearly half of global trade passes through this region, and whoever secures these waters secures enormous influence over global commerce. India, with its long coastline, advanced naval forces, and central location, is naturally positioned to monitor and protect these sea lanes. For the U.S., which has long depended on freedom of navigation to sustain its economy and influence, India is not just a friend, it is an anchor in the Indo-Pacific. Without India's cooperation, China and other powers would have more room to dominate these critical waters, and that would weaken U.S. strategic control. On the military front, India has one of the largest standing armies in the world, supported by a growing air force, a powerful navy, and an expanding defense technology sector. Over the years, the U.S. and India have built significant defense partnerships, conducting joint exercises, sharing intelligence, and signing agreements that allow for logistical support and cooperation during crises. Exercises like Malabar, where U.S., Indian, and allied navies train together, are not just symbolic displays of strength, they are rehearsals for real-world scenarios where unity would be needed. For the U.S., losing such cooperation would mean losing an ally that can project power across Asia and beyond. In an era where conflicts can erupt quickly, having India as a reliable defense partner is irreplaceable. The rise of China and its aggressive military expansion has made defense cooperation even more critical. China's presence in the South China Sea, its increasing naval bases, and its constant border tensions with India all contribute to instability in the region. India has faced this pressure directly, and it has responded by modernizing its forces and strengthening alliances with democratic partners. For the U.S., this makes India an essential counterbalance. No other democracy in Asia has both the scale and the courage to stand up to China's growing influence. Without India, the U.S. would face a far more difficult challenge in containing China's assertiveness, leaving the balance of power tilted. Defense cooperation between the U.S. and India is also about advanced technology and intelligence sharing. Over the last 2 decades, agreements have been signed to allow for greater collaboration on satellite data, defense manufacturing, and high-tech systems. The U.S. has sold India advanced aircraft, drones, and missile systems, while also opening doors for joint research. This flow of technology not only strengthens India's capabilities, but also creates a bond of interdependence. The U.S. knows that empowering India militarily makes the region more stable, but it also knows that weakening this bond would push India to seek alternatives elsewhere, and that would create vulnerabilities. In the realm of counterterrorism, India and the U.S. share a common interest. Both nations have been victims of terrorism, and both recognize that security in the 21st century is not limited to nation-state rivalries, but also includes non-state actors who destabilize regions. Intelligence sharing, joint operations, and coordination on counterterrorism strategies are vital parts of their cooperation. For the U.S., India's experience in dealing with terrorism and insurgencies provides insights that strengthen its own defenses. Losing that cooperation would mean losing knowledge, expertise, and a frontline partner in the global fight against terrorism. Cybersecurity is another area where defense cooperation is expanding rapidly. As more of the world moves online, cyber warfare has become one of the most dangerous threats. Attacks on infrastructure, financial systems, and defense networks can paralyze entire nations. India, with its IT expertise and growing focus on cyber defense, is a valuable partner for the U.S. Together, they can build systems of protection that defend not just their own countries, but also allies who rely on secure digital infrastructure. Without India's alliance, the U.S. would lose an essential partner in the cyber battlefield, leaving itself more vulnerable to hostile powers who exploit digital weaknesses. Another critical area is defense manufacturing and co-development. India has launched initiatives to build its own defense industry, reducing dependence on imports and creating systems suited to its needs. The U.S. has partnered with India in this effort, opening opportunities for joint ventures and technology transfer. This cooperation not only strengthens India, but also ties both nations into long-term defense collaboration that benefits their industries and their militaries. To step away from this would mean losing an opportunity to shape the future of defense production in one of the world's largest markets. It would also risk pushing India toward partnerships with competitors like Russia, which would directly weaken U.S. influence. Beyond traditional military cooperation, the US and India also work together in peacekeeping and humanitarian efforts. India has a long history of contributing to UN peacekeeping missions, and its forces have gained global respect for their professionalism. In times of disaster relief, both nations have coordinated to provide aid and stability in regions struck by crisis. These efforts show that defense cooperation is not only about fighting wars, it is about building peace and stability where it is most needed. For the US, having India as a partner in these missions expands its ability to project soft power and humanitarian influence. Losing that would limit its reach and weaken its global leadership. Energy security also ties into defense strategy. The US and India both depend on stable energy supplies from the Middle East, and much of this supply passes through vulnerable sea lanes. Protecting these routes requires cooperation in maritime security, intelligence, and naval presence. India's navy is already one of the most active in the region, and its cooperation ensures that oil and gas shipments remain safe. Without India's partnership, the US would face far greater risk in securing its own energy needs and protecting global markets. Finally, defense and security cooperation between the US and India sends a powerful message to the world. It shows that democracies can stand together, share power, and protect each other in a time when authoritarian regimes are seeking to rewrite the rules. This partnership is not just military, it is symbolic, a demonstration of unity that inspires allies and warns rivals. For the US, to lose this alliance would mean not only losing a strategic partner, but also weakening the very message of strength and solidarity it seeks to project. The economic opportunities between the United States and India form one of the strongest arguments for why the US cannot afford to lose India's alliance. In the 21st century, power is closely tied to economics, and the nations that dominate trade, investment, and markets are the ones that shape the future. India, with its vast population of more than 1.4 billion people, represents one of the largest consumer bases on the planet. This is not only about numbers, it is about a nation that is rapidly growing in wealth, aspiration, and global influence. For the US, India offers a chance to secure long-term economic growth, diversify supply chains, and invest in markets that will dominate the decades to come. To lose this opportunity would be to hand it over to rivals, weakening America's economic future. India's economy has consistently shown resilience and growth, even during global challenges. As many advanced economies slowed down in recent years, India continued to expand, driven by infrastructure development, entrepreneurship, and technological innovation. It has become the fifth largest economy in the world, and projections show that it may climb even higher in the coming decades. This means that India is not only a partner for today, it is a partner for the future. For the US, aligning with this growth is essential because it ensures access to expanding markets and investment opportunities. Without India, the US would miss out on one of the engines of global economic momentum. Trade between the two nations already reflects this potential. Billions of dollars flow each year in goods and services, ranging from technology and pharmaceuticals to defense equipment and agricultural products. American companies see India as a hub for investment, and Indian companies increasingly see the US as a partner in innovation. These ties are not just transactional, they are strategic. When businesses from two of the largest democracies work together, they create networks of stability that go beyond economics. Losing this relationship would not just reduce trade figures, it would reduce trust and weaken the interdependence that strengthens alliances. India's middle class is one of the fastest growing in the world, and with rising income levels comes rising demand. From consumer goods and technology to education and healthcare, the needs of India's people represent massive opportunities for US companies. This demand is not temporary. It is the beginning of a long-term transformation as India shifts from a developing economy to a global powerhouse. For the US, Capturing this opportunity ensures that its businesses remain competitive in global markets. If America loses India's alliance, it risks being shut out of one of the most lucrative consumer markets of the century, leaving space for competitors to dominate. Another critical area of opportunity is supply chain diversification. In recent years, global dependence on China for manufacturing has been exposed as a risk, and many countries, including the US, are looking for alternatives. India offers exactly that alternative. With its large workforce, improving infrastructure, and government policies encouraging foreign investment, India is positioning itself as the next big hub for global manufacturing. American companies moving operations to India not only reduce dependence on China, but also build stronger ties with a trusted democratic partner. Losing this chance would leave the US more vulnerable to supply chain shocks and geopolitical risks. India's innovation and startup ecosystem further enhance its economic importance. It has one of the largest numbers of startups in the world, many of which focus on technology, finance, renewable energy, and healthcare. These startups are attracting billions in global investment and are producing solutions that address both local and global challenges. For the US, investing in this ecosystem means tapping into creativity and growth that can complement its own industries. Collaboration between American and Indian entrepreneurs creates a flow of ideas, capital, and technology that strengthens both nations. Without this connection, the US would lose access to one of the most dynamic sources of innovation in the world. Energy cooperation is another dimension of the economic relationship. India's demand for energy continues to rise as its economy grows, and it is increasingly looking for sustainable and renewable solutions. The US, with its expertise in energy technology and clean energy innovation, is a natural partner. Joint projects in solar, wind, and nuclear energy not only provide economic opportunities, but also contribute to global efforts against climate change. Losing this cooperation would mean losing influence in one of the fastest growing energy markets and reducing the ability to shape global energy policies. The educational and professional exchanges between the US and India also strengthen economic ties. Thousands of Indian students study in American universities each year, many of whom go on to become leaders in business, science, and technology. At the same time, Indian professionals contribute significantly to US industries, particularly in healthcare and technology. These exchanges create a cycle of knowledge, skill, and economic benefit that binds the two nations together. To weaken or lose this connection would not only hurt educational institutions, but also reduce the flow of talent that drives economic growth. Pharmaceuticals and healthcare are areas where India has already proven its importance. Known as the pharmacy of the world, India produces affordable medicines and vaccines that serve millions globally. During health crises, its role as a supplier becomes even more critical. For the US, having India as a partner in healthcare and pharmaceuticals ensures reliable access to life-saving products at scale. Losing this alliance would mean losing a partner that provides both humanitarian and economic value. Infrastructure development in India offers massive opportunities for American investors as well. With rapid urbanization, India is building roads, airports, smart cities, and digital networks at an unprecedented pace. The scale of these projects requires investment and expertise, and American companies are well positioned to contribute. This is not only profitable but also strategically important because it embeds US influence in India's growth story. If the US were to step back, other powers, especially China, would step in, gaining leverage in India's future development. Digital trade and e-commerce are also becoming defining features of the US-India economic relationship. With hundreds of millions of internet users, India is one of the largest digital markets in the world. American tech giants are already heavily invested, and Indian startups are rapidly expanding. This digital partnership is not just about selling products, it is about shaping the rules of the global digital economy. Losing India's alliance would weaken the US position in defining those rules and reduce its influence in the fastest growing online market. Financial cooperation and investment flows also matter deeply. US investors see India as a long-term bet because of its growth potential and stable democratic institutions. At the same time, Indian companies invest in the US, creating jobs and strengthening local economies. These two-way investments build resilience and interdependence that go beyond short-term gains. To lose this relationship would be to lose not only money but also trust, influence, and stability in global financial systems. All of these economic opportunities together show why India is indispensable to the US in the 21st century. It is not just about trade or investment. It is about securing a future where growth, innovation, and stability are tied to partners who share values and vision. India's scale, its youth, its market, and its ambition make it one of the most important economic players in the world. For the US, losing this alliance would mean losing access to these opportunities and allowing competitors to step in and shape the future in ways that would not serve America's interests. The shared democratic values between the United States and India form the moral foundation of their alliance, and one of the strongest reasons why the US cannot afford to lose this partnership. Unlike relationships that are purely transactional or driven by short-term interests, the US-India alliance is built on a deeper alignment of principles such as democracy, freedom, rule of law, and the belief that the power of the people determines the destiny of a nation. This shared ideology makes the partnership more resilient than those based only on military or economic cooperation, because it reflects a vision of how the world should be governed. Losing India's alliance would mean losing a partner that mirrors America's democratic spirit in a region where authoritarianism and centralized power are increasingly on the rise. At the heart of this bond is the idea that democracy is not just a system of governance, but a way of life. Both nations believe in the fundamental dignity of the individual, the right to speak freely, the right to choose leaders, and the right to pursue opportunity without oppression. This belief binds the people of both countries in a way that transcends government policies and political changes. When America looks at India, it does not just see a strategic partner, it sees a fellow democracy that has endured challenges, protected freedoms, and demonstrated that democracy can thrive even in the face of adversity. This shared experience creates trust, and trust is the currency that sustains alliances even in times of disagreement. India's role as the world's largest democracy gives it a unique importance. Its ability to uphold free elections, empower diverse voices, and maintain democratic institutions in a country of over 1.4 billion people is a testament to its commitment to these values. For the US, supporting and aligning with such a democracy is not just strategic, it is symbolic. It demonstrates that democratic systems can endure in the modern world, countering the narrative of authoritarian regimes that claim democracy is weak or inefficient. By staying aligned with India, the US reinforces its own global image as a defender of freedom and justice. Losing this alliance would weaken America's moral authority at a time when democratic values are under attack worldwide. Both nations also share the value of diversity and inclusiveness within democracy. The United States, known as a melting pot of cultures, languages, and ethnicities, finds a mirror in India, which thrives on its plurality of religions, languages, and traditions. Both countries have shown that diversity is not a weakness but a strength, proving that unity can exist without uniformity. This shared perspective strengthens their bond, because it is rooted in lived experience, not just abstract principle. When the US and India stand together, they embody the message that democracy can flourish in complexity and that inclusiveness creates resilience. Freedom of expression, press, and religion are central values that further tie the two nations. In a world where censorship, suppression, and persecution are tools of authoritarian power, the US and India represent beacons of liberty. Their alliance is more than a geopolitical arrangement. It is a statement to the world that societies built on freedom are capable of growth, innovation, and long-term stability. For the US, losing India's alliance would mean weakening this global message and allowing regimes that suppress freedom to fill the ideological vacuum. Rule of law is another democratic principle that unites the two nations. Both countries believe in the idea that justice should not be dictated by power or wealth, but by systems of fairness, accountability, and transparency. This principle forms the backbone of both legal and political cooperation. When the US collaborates with India on trade, security, or technology, it does so with the confidence that agreements are grounded in respect for law and institutional frameworks. Without this shared principle, alliances often collapse under mistrust or manipulation, but with India, the US finds a partner that upholds the integrity of the rule of law. The democratic bond also provides strength in addressing global challenges, whether it is climate change, cybersecurity, or terrorism. The US and India approach solutions from the perspective of freedom, justice, and shared responsibility. This alignment allows them to cooperate effectively in international forums and to present united positions that influence global governance. For example, when they champion human rights, internet freedom, or democratic reforms in multilateral institutions, their combined voice carries greater weight because it represents not just two nations but two massive democracies working in tandem. To lose this alliance would weaken the global democratic front and embolden authoritarian powers that seek to reshape international norms in their favor. Another critical dimension of shared democratic values is people-to-people ties. The relationship between the American and Indian people is not built solely on government agreements, but on shared aspirations for freedom and opportunity. The Indian diaspora in the US is one of the most successful immigrant communities, contributing significantly to education, healthcare technology, and public service. This community serves as a living bridge between the two democracies, strengthening cultural bonds and fostering mutual understanding. It is a reminder that the alliance is not just political or economic, but deeply human. Losing India as an ally would weaken this cultural and human connection, which is as vital to the alliance as trade or defense. Furthermore, shared democratic values ensure long-term stability in the alliance. Unlike partnerships with nations where power shifts depend on the will of a single leader or ruling party, the US-India relationship is protected by institutions and values that endure across political changes. Even when governments in Washington or New Delhi disagree on policies, the underlying commitment to democracy provides a foundation that prevents rupture. This is why the alliance has continued to strengthen over decades despite changes in leadership and global circumstances. Without this shared foundation, the alliance would be far more fragile and prone to collapse. The symbolic weight of the US-India democratic bond also extends to other nations. When emerging democracies look for models of success, they often look to the United States and India as examples of what is possible. Their cooperation demonstrates that democracy is not limited to any one region or culture, but is a universal principle that can thrive across different societies. By maintaining their alliance, they inspire and encourage other nations to uphold democracy. If the US were to lose India as an ally, it would not only lose a partner, but also weaken this global inspiration. This partnership also serves as a counterbalance to the growing influence of authoritarian states. In regions where democracy is fragile, the presence of a strong US-India alliance sends a message that freedom is worth defending and that democracies can stand together against pressure. This is particularly important in Asia, where geopolitical competition is intense and where the future of governance models is still being contested. The US needs India not only as a strategic partner, but as a fellow defender of democratic ideals in a region where those ideals face constant challenge. In the end, the strength of the US-India alliance lies not only in military power or economic ties, but in the shared democratic values that form its foundation. These values provide trust, resilience, and legitimacy to the partnership, making it unique in a world where many alliances are fragile or transactional. Democracy is the glue that holds the relationship together, ensuring that it can withstand challenges and disagreements while continuing to move forward. 4. Losing India's alliance would mean losing not just a partner, but a reflection of its own democratic identity and a defender of freedom in an era when those values are being tested across the world. Global leadership in the 21st century is no longer defined by the brute force of empires or the dominance of a single superpower. It is defined by cooperation, influence, values, and the ability to shape international norms in a world that is increasingly interconnected. The United States recognizes that if it wishes to maintain its leadership role in this century, it cannot do so alone. The challenges of our time, climate change, Global health crisis, technological disruption, cyber warfare, terrorism, and economic inequality are far too complex for one nation to solve. This is where India becomes indispensable, because together the US and India have the potential to shape the direction of the century by combining their strengths and presenting a unified vision of progress, stability, and freedom. Losing India's alliance would not just weaken America's influence in Asia, it would diminish its ability to lead the world in solving the most pressing issues of our time. India is not merely a regional power, it is a global force on the rise. With its rapidly growing economy, demographic advantage, technological innovation, and expanding influence in international institutions, India is poised to play a defining role in global affairs. The United States understands that partnering with India means anchoring its leadership to one of the fastest growing and most resilient democracies in the world. Unlike alliances built on dependence, this partnership is one of equals, where both nations contribute to a shared vision of the future. Together, they can stand as a counterweight to authoritarian powers that seek to reshape global governance, ensuring that democratic principles remain central to the international order. One of the strongest reasons the US cannot afford to lose India's alliance is the role both countries play in shaping multilateral institutions. The 21st century demands stronger collaboration in global organizations like the United Nations, World Trade Organization, and the G20, as well as newer groupings like the Quad. India's participation brings legitimacy, scale, and balance to these forums, ensuring that the voices of developing nations are heard alongside established powers. When the US and India align on issues like climate action, maritime security, or fair trade, their combined influence creates momentum that few other partnerships can match. Losing this alliance would mean losing the ability to project leadership through inclusive, democratic coalitions that reflect the realities of today's multipolar world. Climate change is another domain where the US-India partnership holds global significance. Both nations face the effects of environmental challenges, and both understand that sustainable solutions require international cooperation. India, with its massive population and ambitious renewable energy targets, is a key player in the fight against climate change. The United States, with its technological expertise and financial resources, is a natural partner. Together, they can lead global efforts in renewable energy, sustainable development, and climate resilience. For the US, losing India's cooperation would mean ceding leadership in one of the most critical arenas of the century to other powers, undermining its credibility as a champion of global responsibility. Technology and innovation will define the future of global leadership, and here again the US and India are natural allies. From artificial intelligence to cybersecurity, space exploration to biotechnology, the 21st century will be shaped by technological breakthroughs. India's thriving tech sector, combined with America's innovation ecosystem, creates a partnership that can set standards, drive progress, and safeguard ethical use of new technologies. This collaboration also ensures that technology is used to strengthen democratic societies rather than undermine them. Losing India's alliance would mean losing a partner capable of pushing back against technological domination by authoritarian states that seek to use innovation as a tool control rather than freedom. Security and defense cooperation further solidify the role of the US-India alliance in shaping global leadership. In a world where security threats are no longer confined to national borders, cooperation between two of the largest democracies becomes essential. The Indo-Pacific, one of the most strategically important regions, is a focal point of this partnership. By working together to ensure freedom of navigation, combat terrorism, and share intelligence, the US and India send a powerful message that security and stability will not be dictated by coercion or aggression. For the US, losing India's alliance would mean losing a crucial partner in one of the most contested regions of the world, thereby weakening its ability to lead on matters of global peace and security. The economic dimension of leadership is equally critical. Global leadership is not only about military or political power, but also about shaping trade markets and financial systems. India's vast consumer market and economic growth provide opportunities for collaboration that benefit both nations while influencing the broader global economy. By strengthening economic ties, the US and India can drive innovation, create jobs, and set trade standards that promote fairness and transparency. A strong US-India economic partnership also ensures that developing countries have models of growth that align with democratic and free market principles, offering an alternative to authoritarian economic systems. Without India, the US would struggle to sustain its economic influence in regions where competition is intensifying. The moral and ideological dimension of global leadership is perhaps the most important of all. Leadership in the 21st century is not only about power, but about purpose. The world is watching to see which nations stand for justice, fairness, equality, and freedom. When the US and India stand together, they embody the promise of democracy and the belief that societies built on freedom and opportunity can achieve greatness. Their alliance represents hope for emerging democracies, showing that it is possible to grow, innovate, and thrive without sacrificing liberty. Losing this alliance would weaken America's moral voice and leave a vacuum for authoritarian regimes to claim the narrative of progress. People-to-people connections further amplify the power of this alliance in global leadership. The millions of Indians living in the US serve as cultural ambassadors, contributing to science, technology, medicine, business, and the arts. These connections create trust and understanding that make the partnership between nations deeper and more authentic. This human dimension adds weight to their global leadership because it reflects a relationship rooted not just in politics, but in shared aspirations for a better world. Without India's alliance, the US would lose a partner whose people-to-people ties make cooperation more resilient than any treaty or agreement alone. The 21st century is already proving to be a century of competition, innovation, and transformation. Nations that lead will be those that can build strong alliances, inspire others, and adapt to new realities while holding firm to timeless values. The United States knows that India is not just another partner, but a nation whose rise complements America's leadership rather than threatens it. Together, they can craft a vision for the future that ensures peace, prosperity, and progress for billions across the globe. Without this alliance, US leadership would be incomplete, its influence diminished, and its ability to shape the century weakened at a time when the stakes could not be higher.